The Galactic Council had always believed that knowledge was the greatest shield. They kept detailed records of every species, every war, every disaster that had unfolded across the stars. Yet there were whispers that slipped through the cracks, rumors that traveled between trading stations and mercenary outposts, stories so unbelievable that the Council dismissed them as drunken tales. These stories spoke of a small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Its people were called humans, and the whispers claimed they had survived endless wars, famine, disease, and disasters that would have destroyed stronger civilizations. Still, no official report mentioned them. The Council saw no reason to worry about such an insignificant world. The rumors grew louder when stray patrols and scouts began reporting strange encounters near the edge of human space. Ships had been ambushed by vessels smaller and weaker, yet those ships had won through tricks and strategies no one had predicted. Captains who survived spoke of a species that fought as if survival was carved into their very nature. They spoke of humans who could adapt to any battlefield, who seemed to anticipate moves before they were made, who refused to retreat even when all hope was gone. But when these reports reached the Council, they were quietly buried. No one wanted to admit that a new predator might be rising in a galaxy already filled with conflict. The Council's ruling members believed in strength through numbers. They believed that massive fleets and advanced technology were the true measure of power. To them, humans were backward, still climbing out of their own history of violence. A single fleet from the Council could crush them easily. So the rumors became nothing more than entertainment, stories told to frighten young recruits or amuse bored soldiers. No one stopped to wonder why these stories persisted. No one questioned why so many survivors described the same terrible determination in human eyes. When the first invasion plans were drawn, the Council treated it as a simple demonstration of power. A rebellious species needed to be shown its place. They would enter human space, demand submission, and if humanity resisted, they would burn a few cities to make their point. In their arrogance, the Council commanders laughed at the idea of a serious fight. They never studied the ancient history of Earth, never read the records of endless wars fought by humans against each other, never tried to understand the strange ability of humans to turn desperation into strength. To the Council, humans were nothing more than another primitive race waiting to be civilized or destroyed. Yet in the shadows of those discussions, there were voices of warning. A few old merchants who had dealt directly with human colonies urged caution. They said that humans were different, that they carried something inside them that machines could not measure. They told stories of explorers who walked into storms instead of running, of soldiers who fought against impossible odds, not because they believed they could win, but because they refused to lose. But the Council chambers echoed only with laughter. The warnings were ignored, the merchants silenced, and the invasion date was set. Far away on Earth, humanity listened. They had intercepted fragments of Council transmissions enough to know that war was coming. Unlike the Council, they did not laugh. Humanity had been here before. Their own history was filled with conquerors, with empires that rose and fell, with wars that tested the limits of human endurance. They understood what it meant to face an enemy who thought themselves untouchable. The people of Earth did not panic. They did not beg. They prepared in silence. On the day the Council fleet entered the edge of human space, the stars burned bright with arrogance. Thousands of warships stretched across the void, banners of power displayed like a warning to all who might resist. From orbit, they looked down upon human colonies and saw no resistance. Cities glowed quietly below, their people going about their lives. The invaders laughed among themselves. To them, it looked like surrender without a fight. But something unsettled a few of them. The humans were calm, too calm. Their cities were not empty, their streets not abandoned. There were no riots, no chaos, no cries of fear. Instead, there was only a silence that seemed heavier than the void itself. It was as if the humans were waiting, as if they knew something the aliens did not. Some captains felt the weight of that silence press against them, but they dismissed it. They had been told that humans were weak, that this would be over in a single strike. In truth, humanity had already made its choice. They would not run, they would not beg, and they would not break. The Council believed that wars were won with numbers and machines. Humanity believed that wars were won with willpower, with the unyielding strength to rise again no matter how many times they were struck down. That belief had carried them through centuries of blood and fire, and now it would be tested against an enemy who had never been warned. The invaders did not yet understand. They did not see the trap closing around them, did not hear the echo of human history whispering through the dark. They had been told nothing of what humanity could do, and by the time they realized the truth, it would already be too late. The alien fleet moved deeper into human space with the arrogance of a predator that believed the prey had no chance of fighting back. Their ships gleamed with the finest technology the Council had ever built. They were armed with weapons that could crack asteroids in half and shields that had withstood wars against empires older than memory. To the commanders of the fleet, the battle ahead was already won. Their only concern was how much destruction to allow before the humans surrendered and begged for mercy. They expected panic, chaos, and a desperate plea for peace. What they found instead was silence. The first colony they approached was a quiet world with oceans of silver and cities lined along the coasts. The invaders expected to see evacuation ships fleeing into the void, but none were present. Their scans showed people living as if nothing was wrong. Children still played in the parks, workers still filled the factories, and lights still burned in the homes below. The invaders mistook this for weakness. They believed humans were so primitive that they did not even recognize the doom that was falling upon them. Orders were given to descend into orbit and display their strength. Massive warships cast shadows over the cities, blocking out the sun. Beams of energy lit up the skies as warnings. The fleet expected fear to spread like wildfire. Yet the humans did not run. They stood beneath the darkened skies and watched. The first demand for surrender was broadcast in dozens of languages across the planet. It promised mercy if humanity bent the knee and total destruction if they refused. The words echoed across the human networks, but there was no response. The invaders waited, puzzled by the silence. Then, in the quiet moments before impatience turned to violence, the human answer arrived. It was not a speech, not a desperate cry for peace, but a single message broadcast into the heart of the fleet. The message contained only 2 words: "Come closer." Confusion spread among the alien captains. They could not understand the arrogance of such a small and primitive race. Still, the order was given. The fleet advanced into lower orbit, their weapons armed, their shields blazing. But as they moved closer, the first sign of human preparation revealed itself. A cluster of satellites that had seemed harmless suddenly unfolded, releasing swarms of drones into space. These machines were smaller than the Council ships, but they moved with a speed and precision that shocked even seasoned commanders. The drones struck like knives, cutting into the fleet's outer defenses. The aliens laughed at first, confident that their superior firepower would erase such toys in seconds. They fired volleys of plasma and energy beams, scattering drones into burning fragments. But for every drone destroyed, 2 more appeared. They moved in patterns no computer could predict, dodging and weaving in ways that seemed impossible. Some carried explosives that detonated against shields. Others carried hacking tools that pierced into enemy systems. Suddenly, several alien ships reported their weapons disabled and engines shut down. Panic began to stir. Even as this chaos unfolded, the humans did not send their main fleet forward. They watched from the surface, waiting as the drones tested the invaders, measuring their strength and exposing their weaknesses. The alien commanders began to realize this was no accident. The humans had planned for this. Every move, every reaction had been predicted. They were being studied. The first human warship finally appeared, rising from the shadows of the colony world. It was not as large as the alien cruisers nor as advanced in design. Its hull looked crude, its weapons simple. Yet when it opened fire, the invaders felt a cold realization. The blast did not aim for their shields or their weapons. The humans aimed for weak points that only an enemy who understood them would know. Within minutes, 2 Council ships were burning wrecks. The aliens struck back with fury, unleashing a storm of fire. The human ship should have been obliterated, yet it danced through the battlefield with a kind of instinct no machine could copy. Every turn was perfect, every shot precise. It was as if the ship itself could read the minds of its enemies. As more human ships rose from the surface, the truth became harder to ignore. Humanity had not been caught unprepared. They had been waiting. Their silence had not been fear, but patience. The Council had walked into a trap they had not even recognized. For the first time in centuries, the invaders felt something they had forgotten long ago. It was not the thrill of conquest or the heat of battle. It was fear. They had believed humans would surrender in moments. Yet the humans had not only resisted but struck back with a force that seemed far greater than their numbers. The fleet commanders tried to send warnings to the Council. but jamming signals cut off their transmissions. The humans had isolated them. The battle raged for hours, and the arrogance of the Council was slowly stripped away. Every ship lost, every drone wave destroyed, revealed another layer of human cunning. They fought like predators who had been hunted too many times before, predators who had learned to strike not with strength, but with unbreakable will. As the smoke of burning ships drifted into orbit, one alien commander whispered what the others were already thinking. No one had told them what humans could do, and now, it might already be too late. The battlefield above the colony world had turned into a storm of fire and silence. The alien fleet, once so confident, found itself locked in a struggle it had never imagined possible. Their weapons fired without pause, their shields glowed with desperate power, but the humans kept coming. Every time the aliens thought they had cornered their enemy, the humans twisted free. Every time they believed victory was at hand, another trap closed around them. What unsettled the invaders most was not the technology, for their ships were still larger and stronger. It was the way the humans fought. They fought not like machines following orders, but like hunters who had studied their prey for generations. Inside the alien flagships, commanders barked orders, their voices laced with frustration. They had faced great enemies before, but every tactic they knew seemed useless. When they formed tight formations, the humans drove swarms of drones between them, scattering their ships apart. When they spread out to surround their enemy, human vessels lured them into ambushes where mines detonated at the perfect moment. It was as if the humans could see the battle before it happened. One commander asked in a trembling voice if humans had found a way to read minds, but no one could answer him. What none of them understood was that humans had always fought this way. Their history was carved in war, in battles fought not with superior weapons but with cunning, with courage, with stubbornness that refused to die. They had fought each other for thousands of years, perfecting strategies and counter-strategies until combat became not just a science, but an instinct. Now that instinct was being turned against an enemy who had never known such desperation. The alien ships began to falter. Reports came in of vessels crippled by sabotage, of engines disabled by small human strike teams who boarded in the chaos. Alien officers demanded to know how such small numbers of humans could inflict so much damage. No answer satisfied them. For every human captured, two more appeared in the shadows of the void, striking when least expected. On the surface of the planet, the people watched the battle unfold through the skies. Yet there was no panic. Humanity had seen this kind of fire before. Entire cities on Earth had once burned in wars between their own kind. They had lived through centuries of devastation, and that memory had hardened them. Children stared at the streaks of light in the sky, not with fear but with quiet understanding. The enemy thought they were fragile, but fragility had never been the truth of humanity. Their strength had always been hidden beneath the scars of survival. In the depths of space, one alien admiral began to realize the danger. He had laughed at the rumors, dismissed the old stories, ignored the warnings. Now he understood that they had been true. Humans did not fight with numbers or technology alone. They fought with something the Council had never prepared for. They fought with the certainty that survival required sacrifice and that no price was too high to pay. He tried to pull his fleet back to retreat before the losses grew worse. But the humans had already anticipated that. Their ships blocked the retreat lines, driving the invaders deeper into the trap. Every battle revealed another hidden layer of human strength. Their smaller ships seemed to fight with the power of giants, their crude weapons striking with uncanny precision. Even when destroyed, human crews fought until their last breath. One alien commander reported a human vessel that detonated itself deliberately, dragging 3 Council cruisers into the explosion. That act shocked the fleet. To them, such sacrifice was madness. To humans, it was survival. The fear spread quickly. Captains whispered that the humans were not like any other species, that they fought not for conquest but because they could not accept defeat. They whispered that humans had no limit to their endurance, that the more desperate the battle became, the stronger they grew. Panic began to erode discipline. Some ships broke formation without orders. Others fired wildly at shadows, and still others attempted to flee into the void. The once proud fleet was unraveling, and the humans pressed their advantage with merciless precision. The Council had believed that humans were primitive, but what they saw now was something terrifyingly advanced in its own way. It was not their machines that made them strong. It was their will. No council archive had recorded such a thing, because will could not be measured, could not be charted, could not be predicted. The aliens realized they were not fighting against a species that sought glory or wealth. They were fighting against a species that had been tempered by endless fire, a species that had already faced extinction many times and had learned how to rise again and again. The alien admiral sent one last desperate message to the council before his communications were cut. His words were brief, carried with the weight of fear. He told them that the humans were not what they seemed, that they were more dangerous than any empire the galaxy had ever known. He begged for reinforcements, but deep down he knew reinforcements would not be enough. The council had awakened something they did not understand. As his ship shook under the fury of human weapons, the admiral looked to the stars and realized the truth. They had walked blindly into a storm. The warnings had been ignored, the stories laughed at, the whispers silenced. Now they were learning the truth in the most painful way possible. Humanity's hidden strength was no longer hidden, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The council had expected the war to be short. They had thought their fleets would march through human space in weeks, but weeks had turned into months, and the battles only grew more bitter. Reinforcements had been called, vast waves of ships sent to crush the resistance once and for all. Yet each new armada returned in fragments, broken by a species that was not supposed to be a threat. The halls of the council echoed with disbelief. Commanders argued, ministers shouted, and leaders who once mocked the rumors now demanded answers. They wanted to know how a world at the edge of the galaxy had become a nightmare that no amount of firepower could erase. On the battlefield, fear had begun to spread like a poison through the ranks of the invaders. They had once believed that humans were weak, but now they spoke in hushed tones of human traps and human tricks. Some swore they saw human ships appear where no ships should be, slipping out of the darkness as if the void itself obeyed them. Others told stories of soldiers who kept fighting even after their bodies should have failed them, men and women who refused to fall, dragging enemies into death with their final breath. Such stories were dismissed as superstition, but the whispers traveled fast, and even the bravest captains began to feel the weight of dread. The human fleets were smaller, but they fought with a unity the council had never known. Alien empires were built on rivalries, on houses and factions competing for power. Even in war, they bickered and betrayed one another. Humans did not. When threatened, they became one. Their ships moved together. Their armies acted as though bound by a single will. It was a kind of strength the council could not understand. A strength that grew stronger with every battle lost or won. The breaking point came in a system that should have been unimportant. A cluster of barren worlds with nothing but mines and supply depots. The council sent a massive fleet there, believing it would be an easy victory that could restore their pride. Instead, it became a graveyard. The humans had turned the system into a fortress of shadows. Asteroids were hollowed out and filled with weapons. Mines floated silently in the darkness. The moment the council fleet entered, the trap closed. Explosions tore through their ranks and human warships rose from hidden fields, attacking with precision. The council ships tried to fight back, but panic had already taken root. Their formations broke apart under the storm. Captains shouted conflicting orders and ships fled without permission. Human vessels pursued them relentlessly, striking from angles no one expected. The invaders fired blindly into the dark, their weapons destroying allies as often as enemies. In the chaos, discipline collapsed. It was no longer a battle but a slaughter. The council admirals watching from their flagships could feel their empire cracking. They had always believed that strength came from size and technology, but humans were proving that strength could also come from spirit. They watched their mighty fleets fall to pieces before enemies who should have been too few, too primitive, too fragile. The truth was undeniable now. Humanity had been underestimated, and that mistake could not be undone. Among the survivors of that battle, the fear grew into something worse than panic. It became belief. They began to think that humans were not like other species, that they were something more, something unstoppable. Soldiers muttered that humanity had been shaped by death itself, forged in endless wars until they became warriors unlike any the galaxy had seen. Every rumor, every tale that had once been dismissed as myth now seemed real. The enemy was no longer just another species to conquer. The enemy had become a shadow in the mind, a terror that no amount of logic could erase. The council tried to silence this fear, but fear is not easily silenced. Captains who once boasted of easy victory now hesitated before every order. Armies that had once marched with pride now moved with suspicion, looking over their shoulders as if death followed them closely. The council could not control it. Humanity had broken more than their fleets. Humanity had broken their confidence. The breaking point was not only in space, it was in the hearts of those who had thought themselves unshakable. For the first time in centuries, the council realized they were not invincible. They had found an enemy who did not fight for conquest or glory. They had found an enemy who fought because survival was in their blood. And survival, they now understood, was far more powerful than arrogance. In the darkness of the void, human ships stood silent among the wreckage of another shattered fleet. Their weapons were quiet, their engines cold, but their message was clear. They had not been defeated. They could not be defeated. The invaders had come to show humanity its place, but it was the galaxy itself that was learning its place instead. The council had thought they were fighting a primitive species. What they had unleashed was something else entirely. They had unleashed the full force of humanity, and at that breaking point the galaxy trembled with the knowledge that no one had warned them what humans could do. The galaxy had changed without realizing it. The council had once stood as an empire that no one dared to question, their fleet stretching across countless stars, their word law to the lesser races. But now, the silence in their chambers was heavier than the void itself. They had thrown wave after wave of ships into human space, and still they had not broken them. Every defeat was worse than the last, every battle a reminder that humanity could not be crushed. The whispers had grown too loud to ignore. Across distant outposts and hidden trading stations, captains and merchants spoke the same words. The humans were not weak. The humans were not fragile. The humans were something far more dangerous. At first, the council tried to respond with greater force. They summoned entire sectors of fleets, gathering numbers so vast they blotted out the stars. The commanders told themselves that no amount of human cunning could stand against such firepower. They believed that if they unleashed their full strength, humanity would finally kneel. But when the armadas entered human space, they found themselves not fighting an enemy of ships and weapons, but an enemy of patience and unity. The humans did not meet them head-on. They allowed them to advance, to stretch their supply lines, to grow overconfident once more. Then the trap was sprung. Human fleets emerged not just from colonies, but from hidden bases scattered through asteroid belts, from ships long buried in the dark, from stations that had been disguised as ruins. The council had thought they understood human territory, but they had only seen the surface. Beneath that surface was a network of defenses and plans layered so deeply that even when a battle was won, another rose immediately. The humans did not fight for one world, or one colony, or one leader. They fought for all of them at once. Every soldier, every pilot, every civilian became part of the struggle. And with each strike, the council realized that this was not war as they knew it. This was survival turned into strategy. The reinforcements sent to rescue failing fleets found themselves ambushed again and again. Council admirals began to understand too late that humans were not only strong in battle, they were merciless in how they studied their enemies. Every alien weakness, every habit of formation, every flaw in their weapons was tested, recorded, and exploited. What had once been the proud pride of the council now became predictable prey. Ships built with centuries of arrogance were undone in hours by human ingenuity. The council had always believed numbers won wars, but humanity proved that a clever mind and a fearless will could turn even a single ship into a weapon of mass destruction. Panic spread through the ranks of the council's soldiers. They had once believed they were fighting barbarians. Now they began to believe they were fighting nightmares. Soldiers claimed that human eyes burned with fire even in the darkest void. Captains reported that human ships fought like living things, refusing to die quietly. There were whispers of entire squads of humans boarding council vessels, cutting through corridors with nothing but fury and determination. These whispers grew, twisting into fear until they were more powerful than any weapon the humans carried. The council had lost control of their own armies before they had lost control of the war, and still humanity did not declare conquest. They did not march their fleets across alien worlds. They only defended, but their defense was absolute. That silence, that refusal to boast, became more terrifying than any declaration. The aliens could not understand it. They were used to enemies demanding power or wealth or tribute. Humanity wanted nothing but survival. That made them unstoppable. A foe who fights for gain can be broken with greater gain. A foe who fights for survival cannot be broken at all. When the last desperate armada of the Council entered human space, the galaxy already knew the outcome. The humans no longer needed to prove themselves. The stars burned with the wreckage of fleets that had underestimated them. The Council sent its finest ships, its most brilliant commanders, its most advanced weapons. None of it mattered. Humanity met them with unity, with cunning, with that hidden strength that had been forged in their own violent past. The final battles were swift and merciless, and when the smoke cleared, humanity stood unshaken. For the survivors who limped back to Council space, the truth was impossible to deny. No one had warned them what humans could do. The whispers had been true all along. They had been too blind to see it, too arrogant to listen, and now it was too late. The Council had learned that humanity's greatest weapon was not their ships nor their technology, nor even their numbers. It was their will, the unbreakable spirit that refused to die no matter the odds. The galaxy looked toward Earth with new eyes. No longer a forgotten world, no longer a primitive race. Humanity had earned a place in the stars through fire and blood. They had not asked for war, but when war was forced upon them, they revealed what no one had ever expected. They revealed that the most dangerous power in the galaxy was not arrogance, not strength, not even fear. It was the will to survive at any cost. And so the final silence fell. Humanity did not boast, did not taunt, did not chase conquest. They watched from their ships, their weapons quiet but ready, and the galaxy understood. The age of underestimating humanity was over. The Council had wanted to teach humans their place, but instead, the Council had been taught a lesson carved forever into history. The lesson was simple. Never forget what humans can do, for by the time you remember, it will already be too late.